In today's athletic class, let's do a full 50-minute focusing on legs. The only thing you're going to need is a set of ankle cuffs because we're going to do a couple different variations of some hamstring and some quad knee extension exercises too, and a little bit of lateral hip work. So, oh, and you'll need your box too. And let's just, for safety purposes only, grab some water and a sweat towel. So we'll do this in a moment, but I have the 18-inch Reformer. So for me, I'm going to need to prop myself up because I want to be pretty close maybe to the rail on the inside height. So if you have a machine at home that's on the ground, obviously you don't need the box. If you have the standard Reformer, the box will not fit under the 14-inch. You'll need to get yourself a moon box, or if your foot's small enough to fit on a yoga block, grab that. I'm going to go ahead and set my water ball and sweat towel aside. So we're going to start with some flexibility. I'll set the thigh cuffs at the back. And let's just start. I'll start camera side. I've got my swivel pulleys down, and I've preset it at a red and a yellow. I don't want it really heavy. I just kind of want it supportive. So I'm going to first put my left knee up against the shoulder rest and pad. Anytime we're on knees, pad your knees. And then I'm going to start with my right leg directly under my hip, turned out. Let's simply just start moving and grooving by doing side splits. Now, the object of a bent knee side splits is to power out with the standing leg. So making sure that we're pushing out with the leg. And you know what? I'm going to actually put a timer on. My bad. I want to really keep this pace going. So let me set a timer up. All right. All right, so there's a little whistle in the background, and that's just going to keep us on point and paced. So let's go ahead and start there. So knee up against shoulder rest, standing leg under hip, slightly turned out, and let's just go in and out for a minute, just kind of get it moving. And what we're going to do is a minute on each side, so we'll just kneel on, flip around to the other side. We're starting with a turnout, then we're going to do it again with our foot neutral. And then we're going to do it turned in just to get some different positioning on that standing hip. 30 seconds more. Working your way into the splits, but being very focused on pushing out and powering out with that standing hip as opposed to trying to lean onto the carriage to initiate movement. So always think, push the floor away with the standing foot. 10 more seconds. Remember, what turns your glute on a little bit more is trying to hold your body up with the glute. So pivot, right knee on, pivot around, and then right into it. Making sure that standing hip is under, or standing leg is under your hip, and push out. If you're hitting your quad or your knee on the bed, just move it away slightly, which I just had to do. Hand option is up to you on the hips. You can always do balance and take the arms out. Completely up to you what you want to do. And oftentimes when I do a leg workout, and let's say you want to come back to this and do it again, you can add some arm work. You can just, during the warm-up, put some dumbbells in your hands, do something if you want to add. Once you get to know this series, because there's a lot of great movements in this that are going to target everything. All right, let's go ahead and kneel back on. Left knee on, flip around. This time we're going to do the same thing, but I want the foot parallel instead of turned out on the floor. So let's go ahead and do that. Your spring setting, sometimes I'll tell you what I'm doing when it's really general, but based on my body mass, 200 pounds, my spring tensions may or may not be different than yours, unless you're really close to my body weight. 30 seconds more. So be aware that if I do give you spring tensions, you may need to go up or down. In my group classes, I like my students to get to know their spring tension, get to know what feels either heavy, medium, or light for them, And then I don't call out springs. I just say, hey guys, go ahead and set up a medium tension and just figure out what works best for you. And then that way they kind of learn what works for their body. Let's go ahead and flip back around. Left foot parallel. Oops, try not to fall over when you're looking down at your feet. There we go. And let's do a minute here. So you can dictate spring tension, or you can offer it to your students to see what works for them. Now, if somebody says, I really don't know what medium is, then I would just set them. So for standing floor splits, for me, most of my students find a red to be medium. I find a red and a yellow or a red and a blue to be medium for this specific series, kneeling. Now for me, I like a little heavier springs than your average Joe just because I'm a little heavy, and also I like that little extra support. Kneel on. Now we're going to do this one last set, but we're turned in on that standing foot. Turn it in and then open and close. This one may require you to hold on to the shoulder rest because it definitely is more unstable. The goal is to keep that internal rotation from the hip. You're going to feel the internal rotators right there working really hard. And you're also going to feel your balance compromised. And the most important thing, besides not falling over, is really keep your pelvis from rotating too much. If you're internally rotating, we want to make sure the pelvis isn't internally rotating, or rotating to the left, rather. Getting a nice burn right here. Let's go ahead and kneel on, flip back around, turn in, get yourself set up, and open close. Length through your spine always, pushing out still with that glute, even though it's harder to access the mat. I like to put my hand on my butt just for feedback to make sure that it's not disengaging. Keeping that nice focus. 30 seconds more. My springs are talking to me today. All right, let's go back to the other side. We're going to go to a straight leg variation. So this is going to require us to start closer to the foot bar. You can always bring the foot bar up for support. Straight leg on. Let's flex that dorsiflex to get the heel instead of a point. So I get that really nice deep calf stretch. Start with the foot under. So you have to really turn it on, and that's going to work to keep us focused on the close so we don't go flying. All right, so let's go ahead and open out. Adjust that leg back enough to where you're not hitting. And both legs are essentially turned out. Makes it a little bit more accessible for a lot of people who have tight inner thighs. I always tell my students, you know you've got a good range of motion in this exercise when you can get the calf and the back of the leg to touch. 30 seconds more. I find doing different variations of side splits much more valuable than just throwing in the standing side splits on the carriage. That is really good to teach glute strength, but it's very limited on what a lot of students. Let's go ahead and switch. Kneel on, flip around, and then right into it. So I think because so many students in the beginning are uncomfortable getting up on a tall clinical 18-inch reformer. And so I started doing a lot of different series on the floor with my front, back, and side splits as opposed to being up. And my students actually prefer to do the different floor variations because they feel more confident. And also, too, you can go a little farther because you're not so neurologically tense being up so high. And also, you can block them with a foot bar. So there's a really great options to do a lot more front, back, and side splits on the floor. And we'll go through one series of front splits on the floor. And last 30. I'm going to move my leg back a little bit more now as I'm going farther. Now we're going to move on to the Reformer doing a side split series. And please know you go where you feel comfortable, not forcing anything. Let's go ahead and kneel on the bed first, flipping back around. I'm going to put actually I'll do a red and a yellow today. So I'm going to bring myself up with my hands. So I'm going to lift myself up and press out. Placing your hands on the frame. Both feet are neutral, 12 o'clock. Once you get set, put your arms where they feel comfortable. I'm going to go a little wider on my left, and let's just in and out, get that nice stretch. Let's do a minute here. Some nice flexibility before we add that strength. A lot of the times when we're doing balance exercises, it's important to do some flexibility so the really tight muscles are not overworking and the underutilized ones are not accessible. 30 seconds more. Noticing they're just light pulses in and out, just creating that nice flexibility. You'll also notice that my foot on the frame is on the corner, on the edge, so it cannot slide, no chance for sliding. And then I'm also thinking about sitting bones are looking to the back as opposed to down at the floor. All right, so we're going to walk ourselves in, bend both our knees, hand on the foot bar, kneel on, and then flip around. And get yourself up there, hand out on the frame, and the little pulses out. Adjust your hands according. And as I mentioned, let's not be tucked under. Really sit bones look back so you get that nice stretch. 30 seconds more. Moving out if you need a little extra support with your arms. I'm definitely going to feel this workout tomorrow. All right, bend your knees, walk yourself back in, and then come all the way up. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to add some more spring tension. So I'm on a red and a yellow, I'm going to go at a red and a blue, and we're going to do a standing splits. And we're going to add rotation. So we're simply going to go out to where we feel that we've got that nice support for our inner thighs. Hands are on the frame. You're going to take a big inhale. Make sure your feet are secure. Exhale, thread the needle and press back up. Keeping the carriage relatively open. Thread the other way. You can go onto the carriage or onto the floor. And let's do a couple more each way. Lowering yourself into that by bending that elbow and rotating. Let's do one more each way. And rest. Bring it in, kneel on, flip around, and get back up. All the way out. and thread the needle. Two more each side. One more each side. And then all the way in. Soften the knees. Pivot, bend, drop one knee. We're going to go ahead and place, and I'm going to stay on this heavier spring tension. We're going to place 1 foot on the gray strip or at the reformer edge and 1 foot on the headrest. And I like to put the toes probably center, lift up, and then press out. If you need to pad your foot on the frame on that gray strip, go ahead. Keep some glute engagement on that right glute, so don't go so far you have no support. And I'm also not a fan of rolling the foot, getting your range and rolling the foot. So I'm going to keep that tripod on my foot. Instead of going so far out, we roll it. Go ahead and bend your knee. Switch feet left to the far right. Right on, lift up, and in and out. Keep that foot planted. Last one. And bend both, drop knee down. Let's go ahead and do a nice little child's pose stretch. I'm going to place my head between. I've got the ball of my feet on the edge of the frame. And I'm just stretching. Take both hands to the right. And both hands to the left. All right. Let's go ahead and, if your foot bar drops to the ground, go ahead and drop it all the way down. If not, that's okay. And let's go ahead. Let's use the box today. Put it over your headrests, just so you have some room for the foot. If your box doesn't do that, you may need to just adjust it a little bit. You can put your foot here or your foot there. Today, I just want to put my foot here and hands on, push it up, and that's just going to allow for some stretch. So I can block my movement by getting closer to the frame, or I can increase my movement by getting farther. So it's up to you where you feel most comfortable. 30 seconds more, I'm going to hop it out even more. I'm going to add some spring tension on. So I've got 2 red and a blue now, and really supported into that deep stretch. Trying my best to have some extension of my upper back so I'm not rounded, even though it's going to be rounded a little bit because you're kind of congested. I'm going to see if I can go all the way out and touch my right thigh to the frame. Yep, good. And then switch legs, going back to the lighter spring tension with the foot in, and go to the splits. Now I'm purposely keeping my calf down. This side of my leg, I'm almost fully recovered from a pretty nasty ankle sprain. So when I'm wanting to get a deep calf stretch with the side knees, I'm going to keep it anchored down, but you can work on balance and lift it up. I'm going to go a little farther out, add that spring back on for heavy, and try my best to have this one. I'm going to have to lift off to get that thigh on. Be very careful there. I'm not going to push it today on this side. One more. Excellent. Now we're going to go ahead and go down to I'm going to do 2 red springs, up to you what you feel comfortable with. I'm going to back myself up to my calf is at the frame, and I'm going to less justify myself because I don't want the box tipping, because I'm going to put my foot, my right foot, somewhere on the box, bring my leg into the well, and press back. So you're going to notice that box will tip a little bit. That's fine. It's not going anywhere. Except if you have something on it. And switch. Press it back, get the leg in the well, and press. If you're hitting the spring hooks, you can always elevate the standing foot on like a Reebok. I have some clients with longer limbs than mine, and I'll just lift them up just to get them a little higher so their knee doesn't hit. Mine doesn't. It comes pretty darn close. And rest. Last one we're going to do here before we go to the back of the Reformer. I'm going to just put my foot on, and I'm going to go out and in. So we're just going to start by working the standing hip, and I'm blocking it just enough on these 2 red springs. I'm getting some work here, but I'm not going too far. If you need to pad the edge because it's uncomfortable, you can go and do that. I'm going to add a side bend, and then we'll do the other side. If we're getting deeper some days, we'll add the knee extension. So know that that's a possibility. I just want to get a little bit of work through the right side. But just know you can add that nice knee extension if you want. Switching sides. Trying to keep the knee at 90 degrees on the carriage. Up to you whether you want turnout or turned in or neutral on the standing foot. I'm preferring turned out right now. Now let's add a side bend and back. All right, let's go ahead and put our feet parallel hip distance, roughly a foot distance away from the carriage, flexing at your hip, and let's just stretch up and down. Nice little hamstring stretch, starting with the hands on the box, and then we'll move down to hands on the carriage, increasing the range of hip flexion. Please keep this as much hip flexion as possible. 30 seconds more. Yeah, you want to do maximal hip flexion. If you spine flex a little, that's okay, but try your best to find as much spine, hip flexion and spine neutral. So I'm really feeling my sit bones slide up the wall behind me to get that nice hamstring stretch. Now let's move to hands on the carriage, lowering down in that stretch a little more. Same rule applies, trying to keep it in the hips as opposed to the spine. And 30 seconds more. All right, let's go ahead and go to a blue spring. Let's sit that box in the well. If you are going to do this with a moon box or a yoga block, or simply just put a Reebok step under the bed to lift you a little bit, go ahead and find what you need. And also too, I mentioned a lot that feedback is super important to me. So if you did this class and you have the traditional 14-inch reformer, or even perhaps, let's go ahead and take the handles off, or if you have the one on the floor, share with in the comment section what you did as far as putting it in the well. So we're going to wrap our ankle cuffs around our ankles. I'm choosing a blue spring, but if that's too heavy, you can always do a yellow just to kind of get the movement. Now, we want some good range of motion here. So as you can tell, I'm only clipping the right on to start with, all right? So as you can tell, it's really slack. And we're gonna do some knee ups. So what I'm gonna do is pull the carriage to me, loop it. I'm gonna do 4 times and see how now I've got some tension on there. So I am strapped, right leg, left strap. So I've got a diagonal on it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage my left and simply bring my right foot up to the frame just to kind of get this feeling sense and control it back down and back up. Now you're going to feel similar to when you're doing the chair. If you do chair work, you're going to feel very similar to that need for moving this leg on the pedal. It's really about the stabilization of the standing leg and back. So once you've done that a few times, you've lifted and lowered, we're going to start taking the foot away from the frame and just lifting it up lightly for, see, like that. Now this is my ankle spring, so I'm doing a lot of stuff like this lately just to challenge it. And I'm adducting the hip. I'm going out at an angle, so make sure you're not going straight forward with that crossed strap. Let me try to focus again. Good. Let's switch. Unclip that one. Let's wrap the other one 4 times. 3, 4. Now 4 may not be enough for you, but you do your best and you find what works for your reformer. If you cannot lower the swivel pulleys, I know some of my students say I can't lower the swivel pulleys. You just need to adjust the body position forward or backwards, because the angle is going to be a little off from what I'm doing. So let's just get that set and then just do the foot up, control it down. For some reason, reaching my opposite arm out helps counterweight me as I find my balance. Ironic, that just happened. And then lift it up and back. And up and back. And up and back. And up and back. And up and back. Well, that's enough for me on that one. So that is a tough one. If you had a challenge with it like I did, remember that we are standing on a box, for those of us who are on a box, and it's got a pad on it. So it's like doing it on a balance pad. So be kind to yourself if it's a bit challenging. Now we're going to turn facing back, and we're going to clip again the opposite leg, because we're going to bring the knee up and we're going to just press back. So it's going to be out at an angle. Now I'm going to move my standing foot aside, more to the side, so I'm not hitting it with the headrest. So instead of pressing directly back, I'm going to bring the foot even slightly forward. I'm pressing out at an angle. I'm really getting some side hip work. Make sure you pad your hands if you've got the metal risers. Let's do 30 seconds more. Pressing out at an angle. Burning like crazy because it's technically internal rotation of the hip as we extend it. And it's super challenging to do internal rotation of the hip. Press it back with the stable leg. Let's switch, unclip right. Make sure left is on. And same thing. Adjust the standing foot and press out. There we go. Really getting that internal rotation once you're warmed up as you press. Burn, baby, burn. We often don't do internal rotation and hip extension at the same time. I mean, that targets like crazy. So hopefully you're burning as much as I am. All right, so let's go ahead and I want to do a hamstring. So let's go ahead and bring the box on short. I'll do this variation since it's pretty accessible to what we have set up now. I'm going to keep it on a blue. Now the mounting procedure, whenever we do hamstrings, we want to be choked up too. So the mounting procedure, make sure the D ring is behind you. We're going to first bring the leg forward, pull ourselves onto balance that way, and then bring your strapped knee on, then your other leg on. You're going to extend the leg out. I like to place my hands down, and let's hamstring curl there. You can do your hands on the box, but I find forearms on the box edge, and hands on the spring side the most stable because I can press my forearms in. $30 more. I was never a fan of the traditional way this is taught kneeling on the long box. I always felt like, go ahead and step off. I always felt like I couldn't get good leverage. And I always felt like it was great for control and balance, not real great for strength. So the wonderful way where I do my short box version, let's go ahead and make sure the right is looped around. I get that stability I need to work on strength, and I don't have to worry about making the exercise such a balance. So foot is on, bring yourself forward, tuck the knee in to bring the carriage back. Left foot is on the shoulder rest, and let's start. And if you find something works a little different for your reformer, please always share it with the class in the comment section. 30 more seconds. The higher the knee is, the greater strength. The lower it is, the less. So if you want to get that glute to work with the hamstring, you just lift that knee up a little bit more. That's another reason why I like this position, this hand position. I can really get that glute to support without going into my lower back. Hands back on the box, work your way down, and step off. All right, we're gonna go and unclip, unloop, and drop those down. Whew, that felt really good. I think everything thus far has been really good and targeted. The only thing we really haven't hit right now is the quads. So I want to see, actually we will, let me see how many. We're going to loop the right back on. And I don't think we need to, let me just see. So I want to be in a kind of a lunge, just so I'm not eating the camera. You don't have to loop it, but I don't have enough room to step forward. Just by looping it, it's going to allow me to get back. So I want the carriage, I don't want it rested, because when we do more of a dynamic movement, it's going to keep banging. So you want to open the carriage to the start position with the strap foot, maybe 4-finger distance away from the. So you're going to step your outside leg. And what you're going to do is you're going to step forward and back. We're going to start that way. Step forward and back. Getting some hip flexor and really getting that work on the standing leg for stability. I'm essentially thinking as I bring my right leg forward, I'm bridging my left hip. I'm really feeling that glute work. See, I'm banging. Let me move forward a little bit more. And if you need to go down in resistance, please do that. It's really great for that hip flexor and that standing glute. All right, let's go ahead and switch. Clip that on the other one, and then get it right into it. Start with the legs slightly back, and in a lunge position, and step it forward. I kind of feel like I'm trying to pull my foot out of a muddy, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. Field, a muddy field. I was just having like a old timers moment there for a second. Man, I'm feeling a lot of work in that standing leg. That hip flexor is really supporting me as I pull up. My abs, I mean, this is great for abs too. Pretty simple movement. And I'm getting my quads. It's just pretty much everything. All right. Now, clip it back on the other one. And we're going to think about kicking a ball. So you can actually, let me grab a ball. I think we may do that today. I'm just going to grab a soft round ball. You don't have to use it, but I'm just going to show you because I know I didn't tell you to get one of these. We're just going to use it to kind of get the movement down, okay? So basically, you're just rolling the ball forward in your mind. Now, if you don't have a ball, just do it without the ball. If you need to upend a box, you can do that. But if you do have a ball and you want to pause the video and go grab it, go for it, and just roll the ball out and back. Remember to upend a box or hold a gondola pole, or if you have just a workout bar, like what are those weighted bars called? I can't think of what they're called. This is killing me because of my ankle sprain. All right, let's go ahead and switch. with or without the ball. I think today I needed that because the first time I've done this series since my ankle sprain. I'm doing a lot of legs lately because I can do them again. It was almost an entire year without. Yeah, so it's amazing how this side, totally easy. This side's been stabilizing. All right, let's do a minute of this. Get yourself set up, organized. Make sure you're not off center from that swivel pulley. I was a little off, so make sure the hip, and let's go ahead and just roll that ball forward and back. I'm gonna move it forward a tiny bit more, so make sure you find those necessary adjustments. And we're gonna do 2 times 2 just to make sure we really get this feeling right. Let's do 30 seconds more. Really feeling that standing leg working. Quad, it feels great. All right, let's do one more set each side. Oh, don't let the ball roll away from you. Give you a good 30 seconds to transition sides. And I'm going to do my best not to scream because this is a huge challenge. Make sure I'm set up. Feel like I need to go to the left a little bit more so I'm aligned with that swivel pulley. All right, let's do a minute of ball rollouts or just little kicks. Thirty seconds more, and we'll do one last set using the left. All right, let's go ahead and switch. Clip the other one on. You got 30 seconds. Take your time. Make sure you're adjusted slightly off to one side so that pulley's aligned with the hip. Try not to fall over. And starting to feel shaky legs from today's workout. All right, so let's get started. Get yourself nice and length through the spine, glutes on, and go ahead and give yourself those rolls for a minute. And adjust the ball out a little bit more. Here we go. And last 30 seconds. Really helps not to talk and to spot something, quite honestly. All right, go ahead and unclip. Sit your ball back, put your ball back. And we are just going to finish with some stretches. I think we just got about 5-6 minutes left. And I think we deserve feet and straps. So let's unclip, unloop, adjust your headrest to where you like it. And let's put the loops on I'm going to put my double loops on, post them, and then I'm going to take my swivel pulleys back up, and let's just spend some time doing something enjoyable. Not that that class wasn't enjoyable, but there's something about feet and straps. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. I'm going to grab some water. Take the ankle cuffs off. And let's start with lower lifts. All right, I'm going to start with feet together. Make sure they're, yeah, with my ankle injury recovering, everything feels off. So I thought it was my loops. Up and down, feet together for 30 seconds. Remember, when we lower down, it's a glute workout. So don't just let the legs lower without engaging the glutes. In the down position, I feel like I'm sitting on two balls. My pelvis feels like it raises up. So make sure you keep those glutes working. We're going to go from feet together, and then we're going to switch to parallel hip distance and up and down there. Trying to keep that nice stability, parallel hip distance all the way up, all the way down. Find a pace that feels good for you. And turned in. Still feeling my glutes. Feeling those side hip muscles we worked earlier. Still excited to have helped us today. A lot of the exercise we did in the beginning, I know I mentioned flexibility, but also doing different foot positions is going to turn some muscles on that we're going to need for those standing balance exercises we did and turned out. So always remember, when you're going to do balance stuff, it's important to do some flexibility of the legs and also challenge the foot positioning, just so we can get all the different muscles that we use and don't use all woke up. And let's go into circles. Remember, always feel the anchoring of the hips when your legs go up and the glutes as your legs circle around and down. Reverse. So this is your a dry mouth right now. First athletic class with me. Remember, the timer that I'm using is on an iPad. You can use it on your phone. It's called the Tabata Pro app. Tabata, T-A-B-A-T-A, Tabata Pro. And it's pretty amazing. Let's go ahead and bring your feet into a butterfly stretch. So you can get that in your app store. And it has options for different noises. So if you don't like the whistle, you can change it to buzzers and other kind of things. I think they had like a boxing buzzer, ring, that kind of a thing. That one I didn't like, but I recommend getting that Tabata Pro timer, and you can use it yourself when you're doing more of an athletic class. Let's do frog. Turned out in a V. So there's an exercise when we're on the long box and we're doing hands in straps and we go up, out, and around. It's called backstroke series. So we're going to do that now with the legs. So it's the same leg series, but we're going out and forward instead of up and around, which we'll do next. So I like to call this one where we go out first, the breaststroke movement, because that's kind of what it is. And now let's go ahead and bring it in. And now we're going to do the backstroke movement that you do on the long box. I like to pattern this a lot with my students, this specific movement. So when you do take them on the long box and you have to coordinate with a half roll up, you've got to coordinate with the arm movement. This pattern's in them. So if you set yourself or your students with this patterning, feet out of straps, it's going to make teaching and learning long block variation. Rock your knees side to side, feet wide on the bar. You're going to be a lot more successful as a teacher or a student if you do those backstroke and breaststroke frog variations before you get up on the long box and do the backstroke series. All right, that concludes our class today. Thanks for joining. Remember, if you have a question about it, let's say you have a reformer and you're not sure what to do to modify one of those exercises that we did. Let's say you can't, but you like a lot of these things in the class. You can do a resistance band around the leg of the reformer, around the ankle, and do all those. I will always tell you guys, go to hookedonpilates.com and get a set of their heavy and medium handy bands, because you can attach them to the swivel pulleys and do a lot of things off the back. You can attach them down. And let's say you want to do all those we did on the back, but you don't have the ability, just under the machine. Now, these are heavy enough to hold them. I just put the handles under the machine, and then I put the loop around my foot and ankle and do them. So give those a try and go to hookedonpilates.com. All right, well, that's it. And thanks for joining me for this athletic class. Remember, do it multiple times. Work on your strength. Work on your balance and coordination. Remember, let's say you do the ball, the knee extensions with the ball, the standing ones, up into box until you get that stability. And then eventually, as I mentioned before, do it without. Normally, if I didn't have this ankle injury, I would do it without and really challenge myself, not be so focused with how many reps I did, but more focused on coordination and control. All right, thanks for joining me.